The crystalline ship descended through Earth's atmosphere with an elegance that belied its massive size. Sunlight refracted through its translucent hull, casting prismatic rainbows across the Washington Mall as it settled onto the lawn with barely a whisper. For 3 days, it had hovered above major cities worldwide, its presence sending humanity into equal measures of panic and wonder. Captain Sarah Chen adjusted her dress uniform, hand instinctively checking her sidearm. As head of the newly formed First Contact Security Detail, she'd been briefed extensively on the Silari. Though extensive meant precious little when dealing with silicon-based lifeforms from another star system. "Remember," General Wallace murmured beside her, "no sudden movements. Their environmental suits are the only things keeping them mobile outside their ship." The vessel's hull shimmered, then parted like liquid glass. The assembled world leaders, military personnel, and media collectively held their breath. The Xilari emerged, and despite all the briefings, Sarah wasn't prepared for the reality. They resembled animated geodes, crystalline beings with faceted surfaces that pulsed with internal light patterns. Each rode within an exquisitely engineered mechanical exoskeleton that moved with precise, deliberate steps. 7 of them glided forward in perfect formation, their crystalline bodies housed in transparent chambers atop the walking machines. Ambassador Tvex led the procession, distinguished by more complex light patterns flowing through its crystalline form. The ambassador's exoskeleton stood nearly 8 feet tall, adorned with what appeared to be ceremonial markings. "People of Earth," the ambassador's translation device projected in a melodious tone, "we welcome you to the greater galactic community." The UN Secretary-General stepped forward, offering Earth's formal greeting. Photographers captured the historic handshake, the Secretary-General's human hand meeting the ambassador's mechanical appendage. That's when everything went wrong. A high-pitched whine emanated from Tvex's exoskeleton. The mechanical limbs seized mid-gesture, locking in place. The ambassador's crystalline form tilted precariously as balance systems failed. "Their crystalline structure will shatter if they fall," someone shouted. Sarah's training kicked in before conscious thought. She sprinted across the 20 feet separating them, her tactical boots giving her perfect traction on the polished marble floor. As Tvex's exoskeleton began to topple, she dropped into a baseball slide, positioning herself beneath the falling ambassador. The Xilari's containment chamber crashed against her outstretched arms with surprising weight. Sarah's muscles strained as she controlled the fall, carefully lowering the ambassador to a stable position. Tvex's multifaceted eyes, geometric patterns of light within crystalline sockets, blinked rapidly, focusing on Sarah with unmistakable astonishment. "You moved with remarkable speed and precision." The translation device stuttered as the embassy's technical team rushed forward. "Just doing my job, Ambassador," Sarah replied, maintaining her position supporting the crystalline being until Xilari technicians could stabilize the malfunctioning exoskeleton. Later, reviewing security footage aboard their vessel, Tvex and sub-envoy Krex observed the incident from multiple angles. "Fascinating," Krex commented. The human covered significant distance in minimal time, using only her natural bipedal locomotion. Indeed, Tvex's crystalline structure pulsed with thoughtful light patterns. Their mobility is surprisingly efficient for beings who have barely augmented their primitive forms. Did you notice how the security human slid the final distance? A remarkably efficient energy conservation technique. Perhaps a random evolutionary advantage, Krex suggested. Perhaps. Tvex's lights dimmed in the Xilari equivalent of contemplation. "We must offer our transportation technology immediately. Their rudimentary mobility systems are clearly holding back their potential. It would be cruel not to elevate them." "I'll prepare the technological exchange proposals," Krex confirmed. Meanwhile, in a secure Pentagon briefing room, Captain Chen received her new orders from General Wallace. "The Xilari move like turtles out of their ship," he explained. "You're to assemble a response team specifically to handle these delicate aliens and their mobility issues." Sarah nodded, recalling the strange look in the ambassador's crystalline eyes. something she could only interpret as shock at her simple human movement. "Yes, sir," she replied. "I think I know just the people for this job. Please stay within 5 meters of the delegation at all times," Captain Chen instructed Dr. Elena Reyes as they waited at the Smithsonian's Transportation Museum entrance. "They're still getting used to Earth's gravity and atmospheric composition." Elena nodded, tucking a strand of dark hair behind her ear. The former Olympic speed skater had traded her competitive career for a doctorate in kinesiological biomechanics, never imagining her expertise would become relevant to interstellar diplomacy. "Here they come," Sarah murmured. The auxiliary delegation approached with the characteristic whir and click of their mechanical exoskeletons. Ambassador Tivex led 4 others, their crystalline bodies glowing with shifting patterns inside their mobility suits. The suits moved with precise, calculated movements, every step seemingly predetermined by complex algorithms rather than spontaneous decision. "Dr. Reyes," Tivex's translation device rendered in that melodious tone, "we appreciate your willingness to educate us on human transportation history." "It's my pleasure, Ambassador," Elena replied, leading them through the massive doors. "We'll start with the earliest forms of transportation and work our way to modern technologies." The delegation moved laboriously through exhibits of ancient chariots, steam engines, and early automobiles, their glowing sensory appendages recording everything. Elena noticed how they seemed particularly interested in the mechanics of each invention, but showed little interest in the human figures depicted using them. Things changed when they reached the personal mobility through the ages exhibit. "What are these?" Sub-Envoy Krex asked, mechanical appendage pointing to a display of 1970s-era roller skates suspended in a disco-themed diorama. "Roller skates," Elena explained. "Wheels attached to footwear that allow humans to glide rather than walk." These crude appendages could not possibly function effectively, Krex stated with certainty, the sensory appendages intensifying their recording. The balance requirements alone would exceed neural processing capacity of biological systems. Elena felt an unexpected flare of defensiveness. She'd won 3 medals on ice skates, the winter cousins to these disco relics. "Actually," she said, "they work quite well. These particular models were used both for recreation and efficient transportation." Krex's crystalline eyes rotated in their sockets. Demonstration would clarify functionality. Without waiting for official permission, Elena opened the display case and removed the vintage skates. The museum curator began to protest, but was silenced by Captain Chen's authoritative headshake. Elena strapped on the skates, surprisingly close to her size. The worn leather felt familiar against her feet, awakening muscle memories from her cross-training days. She stood, finding her balance instantly, and glided in a smooth circle around the Sulari delegation. Their mechanical suits pivoted awkwardly to follow her movement, crystalline eyes tracking her with unmistakable fascination. "Note the minimal energy expenditure," Elena explained as she executed a simple spin. "Momentum conservation allows sustained mobility with intermittent propulsion." She demonstrated a few more basic maneuvers, careful not to show off too much in the confined space. The auxiliary remained unnaturally still, recording her every movement. Then chaos erupted. A school group entered the hall, and a young boy accidentally brushed against the exhibit's interactive panel. The ceiling-mounted disco ball illuminated, and 70s music blared through suddenly activated speakers. Elena reacted instinctively to the rhythm, muscle memory taking over. Before she could stop herself, she launched into a routine of spins, crossovers, and jumps that had once earned her perfect technical scores on ice. When she finally stopped, the music continuing around her, the auxiliary delegation's communication crystals were flashing in patterns she hadn't seen before. The school children applauded wildly. "That was awesome, lady," one child shouted. Captain Chen looked concerned, but couldn't hide her impressed smile. Among the Tsulari, one smaller individual stepped slightly forward. Science Officer Zix, the youngest of the delegation, focused multiple sensory appendages on Elena's feet. The movements serve no transportation purpose, Zix noted, translator struggling to capture the concept. Yet you perform them with satisfaction. We call it joy, Elena replied, still catching her breath. Movement isn't just about getting somewhere. Sometimes it's about how you feel while moving. The concept appeared to short-circuit the translator completely. In the confused silence that followed, Elena noticed Science Officer Zix surreptitiously recording detailed scans of the primitive foot enhancers, crystal structure pulsing with a rhythm suspiciously similar to the disco beat still playing overhead. The Geneva Convention Center glittered with holographic displays and exotic lighting designed to accommodate the visual sensibilities of 27 spacefaring species. Captain Chen surveyed the security perimeter, while Dr. Rice fidgeted with her formal wear, uncomfortable outside her lab coat or athletic gear. Relax, Sarah whispered. You're representing Earth's top mobility expert, not competing for gold. I'd prefer the competition, Elena muttered. At least there I knew the rules. A hush fell over the assembled dignitaries as Ambassador Tuvex ascended the stage, exoskeleton gleaming under the specialized lighting. The mechanical suit had been enhanced for the occasion, moving with slightly more grace than its standard configuration. Esteemed representatives of Earth, Tuvex began, translation crystals projecting the message in multiple languages simultaneously. We celebrate 2 standard cycles of diplomatic relations between our civilizations. Polite applause followed as holographic images depicted the first landing and subsequent cultural exchanges. To mark this historic partnership, Tuvex continued, crystal structure pulsing with formal patterns, the Confederation extends its greatest goodwill gesture, an invitation for humanity to observe our centennial mobility exhibition. Excited murmurs spread through the human delegation. For 10,000 standard cycles, 27 spacefaring civilizations have showcased their transportation technologies in this grand tradition. Tuvex's mechanical appendage raised dramatically. Your species may study our advancements, though the navigation course would challenge your current capabilities. The hall fell uncomfortably silent. Several human officials shifted awkwardly. Elena felt something snap inside her. The same diplomatic condescension had colored every interaction with the Xilari, their certainty that humans were mobility-impaired creatures deserving pity. The former Olympian in her couldn't bear it any longer. She stood, champagne flute in hand. Captain Chen gave her a warning look, but Elena ignored it. Ambassador, she said clearly, humanity would be honored not just to observe but to participate with our own mobility technology. The translator struggled momentarily before Tuvex responded with crystalline sounds resembling wind chimes in a hurricane. Laughter, Elena had learned. Charming. The ambassador replied. By all means, bring your, what did you call them? Foot enhancers. The human delegation erupted in panicked whispers. UN Secretary Douglas grabbed Elena's arm as she returned to her seat. What the hell were you thinking? He hissed. You've set us up for interstellar humiliation. With respect, Mr. Secretary, Elena replied calmly. I'm tired of being treated like a toddler who can't walk without help. This isn't about your pride, Doctor. This is about humanity's standing in the galactic community. The argument continued behind closed doors after the banquet. High-ranking officials demanded Elena withdraw the challenge. Scientists insisted humanity needed decades of research before competing with Confederation technology. You don't understand what we're up against, the UN science advisor shouted. Their mobility systems utilize quantum field manipulation. We're bringing roller skates to a wormhole fight. Elena stood her ground. You've seen their exoskeletons. They move like arthritic turtles despite their advanced technology. We have something they don't. Natural mobility refined through millennia of evolution and centuries of athletic development. Absolutely not, Secretary Douglas declared. I'm ordering you to withdraw. Actually, Captain Chen interjected unexpectedly. As military liaison to the Xilari, I recommend we proceed. Her calm assertion silenced the room. The diplomatic damage from withdrawal would exceed any embarrassment from participation. Elena seized the opening. I need 4 people and 1 month. If we fail, I'll personally take all responsibility. Reluctantly, Secretary Douglas agreed, though he made Elena sign unprecedented diplomatic liability waivers. 3 days later, Dr. Rice stood in an abandoned warehouse, facing 4 people who might just save humanity from its first interstellar embarrassment. Malik Wong. She nodded toward a lanky man with intricate tattoos, street-style skateboard champion with 3 warrants for trespassing on government property to perform impossible stunts. Malik smirked. The charges were dropped. Sofia Petrova. Elena continued, acknowledging a muscular woman with a severe platinum buzz cut. Speed skater disqualified from the Olympics for performances deemed technologically impossible, despite passing every equipment check. They couldn't prove anything because I wasn't cheating, Sofia said with a heavy Russian accent. Li Chen, parkour artist whose social media stunts have been banned in 12 countries for encouraging dangerous behavior. A compact man of few words simply nodded. And Jamal Washington, wheelchair motocross champion whose custom chair has more prohibited modifications than approved parts. Jamal spun his carbon fiber wheelchair in a perfect circle. When life gives you paralysis, make engineers nervous. Elena looked at her unlikely team. The Confederation thinks we're primitives. They've invited us to their exhibition, expecting us to fail spectacularly. Let's show them what primitive can do. 3 weeks before the exhibition, the abandoned subway station beneath New York's financial district hummed with activity. Government contractors had transformed the cavernous space into a training facility that approximated the course specifications reluctantly shared by the Xilari. Dr. Rice studied holographic simulations of the obstacles, while Captain Chen argued with yet another government official. For the last time, Sarah said firmly, this operation has presidential authorization. Your department's concerns have been noted. The man in the expensive suit departed with a scowl as Sofia approached, her arm in a carbon fiber cast. Another one trying to shut us down? Sofia asked, her accent thickening with fatigue. Elena nodded. Half the government thinks we're committing diplomatic suicide. She gestured to Sofia's injury. How's the fracture? Clean break. Doctor says 4 weeks minimum before competition. We don't have 4 weeks. Sofia grinned. Russians don't need doctor's permission to compete injured. Across the facility, Malik cursed as his experimental magnetic skateboard wheels catastrophically detached mid-jump, sending him crashing into a concrete pillar. Jamal wheeled over to help him up. Physics is being unusually stubborn today, Malik groaned, checking his board for damage. Physics is never the problem, Jamal replied, examining the wheel mechanism. It's the engineer's understanding that needs adjustment. The central challenge was adapting Earth's primitive mobility technology to conditions it was never designed for: gravity transitions, liquid nitrogen pools, and magnetic distortion fields. Each team member faced seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Li's parkour techniques failed in simulated low gravity. Sofia's stress fracture threatened her participation entirely. Malik couldn't stabilize his skateboard against magnetic interference, and Jamal's wheelchair kept freezing in the cryogenic sections. This is impossible, Elena admitted to Sarah during a rare quiet moment. The Xilari were right. We're not ready for this. Funny thing about humans, Sarah replied. We do our best work when something's impossible. A commotion at the security checkpoint interrupted their conversation. A small Xilari in a miniature exoskeleton had somehow gained entrance. Science Officer Zix, Sarah identified immediately, moving to intercept. Greetings, Captain Chen, Zix's translator hummed. I come to observe human preparation rituals. Elena stepped forward. This is a closed facility. I have obtained necessary clearances, Zix replied, crystalline structure pulsing with what Elena had learned was excitement. Ambassador Tivex believes monitoring your progress serves diplomatic transparency. Sarah checked her tablet. Somehow, The young Silari had indeed secured authorization. Fine, Elena conceded, but no recording our techniques. Zix agreed, though Elena suspected the alien was recording regardless. She led the Silari through the facility, explaining the simplified versions of their challenges. They paused at the half-pipe where Jamal was testing a new configuration of his wheelchair. The champion executed a perfect aerial rotation, landing smoothly before transitioning into a complex series of spins. Zix's crystalline eyes rotated rapidly in their sockets. How is this possible without quantum stabilizers? Balance, Jamal explained, wheeling over. Want to see how it works? For the next hour, Jamal demonstrated basic principles of center of gravity and momentum conservation. To everyone's surprise, Zix proved an eager student, asking insightful questions about the relationship between Jamal's neural system and his equipment. Your mobility enhancers are not separate technology, Zix observed. They are extensions of your biological systems. Exactly, Jamal confirmed. The wheelchair doesn't think for me. It responds to me. That night, after the team had departed, security cameras captured unexpected footage. Science Officer Zix, exoskeleton powered down, attempting to roll unassisted across the smooth concrete. The Xilari fell repeatedly, but continued with un-Xilari-like determination. The following morning, Dr. Rice discovered a data tablet left anonymously at the facility entrance. It contained complete Confederation gambling pool information. The humans were listed at 10,000 to 1 odds against even finishing the course. They really think we have no chance, Sophia observed. Malik's eyes gleamed with opportunity. So if someone were to bet on us, that would be highly unethical, Elena said firmly. Completely inappropriate, Captain Chen agreed. They looked at each other. 2 hours later, their entire operational budget, plus personal savings, had been converted to Confederation currency and placed on Team Earth. The bet was processed through an anonymous proxy with crystalline light patterns suspiciously similar to Science Officer Zix's communication signature. It's all or nothing now, Elena told her team as they returned to training with renewed determination. Either we make history, or we make fools of ourselves trying. The shuttle approached the Confederation's orbital station, a massive rotating structure resembling an elaborate crystal geode sliced open to reveal technological wonders within. Light refracted through its translucent sections, creating shimmering patterns across the approaching vessel. Team Earth stared through the viewports in stunned silence. Even after weeks of preparation, the reality of their situation was finally sinking in. 5 humans were about to represent their entire species before the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Beautiful, isn't it? Their pilot, an amorphous velid who navigated through a series of mechanical tendrils, gurgled through the translator. Breathtaking, Elena agreed, gripping her equipment case tighter. Many species are attending specifically to witness the human mobility disaster, the pilot added conversationally. Ticket sales broke records after your entry was announced. Malik raised an eyebrow. No pressure, right? The docking bay bustled with activity as representatives from dozens of worlds prepared for the exhibition. Team Earth disembarked to immediate scrutiny. Beams of unimaginable diversity stared at their equipment cases with expressions ranging from amusement to pity to outright disgust. A group of methane-breathing Dralaxians in elaborate hover tanks pointed and emitted sounds that their translators tactfully declined to interpret. One Dralaxian laughed so hard it fogged its containment suit. Ignore them, Captain Chen advised, guiding the team through the crowd. A multi-limbed Procyon engineer blocked their path, eye stalks examining Malik's skateboard case. Is it true? The being asked through a translator module. Your species believes primitive rolling devices can compete with quantum mobility technology. Malik bristled. Why don't you wait and find out? Fascinating, the Procyon replied, like watching a Stone Age culture discover fire. Adorably primitive. Malik stepped forward, but Sarah pulled him back. Not worth it. They were escorted to their assigned preparation area, noticeably smaller than those allocated to other species. The walls displayed holographic instructions clearly designed for beings assumed to have limited comprehension. "They really are expecting us to fail spectacularly," Sophia observed, testing her skates on the polished floor. The opening ceremony began 3 hours later in a vast presentation hall. One by one, representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations demonstrated their mobility technologies. The text created perfect microgravity bubbles around themselves, floating through complex obstacle courses with effortless precision. The Dralaxians showcased hover tanks that could phase partially out of conventional spacetime to bypass solid objects. With each increasingly spectacular demonstration, the human team felt their confidence wavering. "We're so out of our league," Lai whispered. When Earth's turn came, Dr. Rice led her team to the center platform. Compared to the elaborate technological displays before them, they appeared almost naked in their simple athletic wear, carrying what looked like toys to the assembled aliens. The presentation hall fell into uncomfortable silence, broken only by the sound of Sophia's skate wheels on the polished floor. Ambassador T-Vex glided forward, clearly attempting to salvage the awkward moment. "Humans have chosen a minimalist approach, honoring their heritage." Elena stepped forward. "Throughout human history, we've enhanced our natural mobility not by replacing it, but by extending it. What you see are not primitive tools, but the result of centuries refining the integration between biological capability and technological assistance." She nodded to her team, who demonstrated basic moves. Sophia executing a simple spin on her skates, Malik popping his skateboard into a stationary ollie, Lai performing a backflip, and Jamal balancing his wheelchair on its rear wheels. These movements, routine to any human child, violated everything the Confederation understood about efficient mobility. The audience's reaction ranged from confused silence to uncomfortable muttering to outright laughter. From her position among the Sulari delegation, Science Officer Zix watched with an intensity that stood out from the general mockery. The young alien's crystalline form pulsed with rapid light patterns whenever the humans moved. "They will be eliminated within moments of the exhibition start," a nearby Dralaxian ambassador commented to its companions. "Their primitive systems cannot possibly manage the course transitions." Tvex's mechanical appendage gestured agreement. "Indeed, but we must admire their courage, however misplaced." As Team Earth left the presentation platform amid polite but dismissive applause, Alina caught Zix's gaze. The Xilari's translator light blinked twice, their prearranged signal that the bets had been successfully placed. "Well," Elena told her team as they returned to their preparation area, "tomorrow we either make history or become a galactic joke for the next millennium. Get some rest." The exhibition course sprawled across 3 decks of the station, a nightmarish combination of obstacle course, labyrinth, and quantum physics experiment. Team Earth watched from an isolation chamber as competitors navigated with technologies so advanced it seemed magical. The methane-breathing Dralaxians created temporary spatial anomalies to bypass obstacles entirely. The insectoid text floated through gravity wells in bubbles of controlled spacetime. Each species demonstrated transportation methods that made human technology seem as primitive as stone tools compared to fusion reactors. "We're actually going to die out there," Malik muttered, checking his skateboard's magnetic wheels one final time. "Probably," Sophia agreed cheerfully, adjusting her skate guards. "But we'll look amazing doing it." When humanity's turn came, the station's observation decks overflowed with spectators. Ambassador T-Vex made a brief speech about honoring courageous participation, regardless of technological limitations. The condescension was palpable. The team gathered at the starting point, where the course began with a 100-meter crystalline wall featuring negative gravity pockets designed to disorient competitors. "Remember the plan," Alina said. "Play to your strengths, ignore the audience, and focus on the physics, not the technology." Lai Chen stepped forward first. Previous competitors had used gravitational nullifiers and quantum anchors to navigate the wall. Lai wore only lightweight clothing and simple climbing shoes. This human will attempt the vertical challenge with no technological assistance, the announcer stated incredulously. Medical response teams are standing by. Lai approached the wall, studied it briefly, then simply jumped. His parkour skills transformed the seemingly impossible structure into a playground. Where aliens had cautiously navigated with computer assistance, Li flowed like water, leaping between handholds and spinning through negative gravity pockets that would disorient most beings. The commentator fell silent, unable to explain what was happening. The audience watched in stunned disbelief as Lai reached the summit in one-third the previous best time. Jamal approached the underwater section next, a series of tunnels filled with a high-density liquid interspersed with cryogenic chambers. Previous competitors had used complex environmental shields. Jamal's wheelchair had only simple modifications, sealed bearings, miniature propellers, and basic ballast systems. Submersion in 3, 2, 1. The technician counted down. Jamal descended into the liquid, his wheelchair transforming from land vehicle to submarine with the flip of several switches. The audience watched in silence as he navigated through the complex tunnels with surprising agility, his human brain calculating currents and resistance in real time without computational assistance. When he emerged from the final cryogenic chamber completely unharmed, a ripple of confused murmuring spread through the alien spectators. The human mobility devices appear to be performing beyond their technological parameters, the commentator admitted. Sophia entered the speed course next, a chaotic maze of shifting platforms designed to test reaction time and navigational processing. Where alien competitors had cautiously traversed with computerized guidance systems, Sophia flowed through on her inline skates like water finding the path of least resistance. Her lifetime of training allowed split-second adjustments no computer could match, her body intuitively understanding physics in ways the aliens' technology attempted to calculate. When she cleared the course in one-third the previous record time, a Solari physicist demanded an investigation. The human must be using concealed technology. These results violate theoretical limitations. Scanners were brought in, examining Sophia's inline skates in minute detail. They found nothing but wheels, bearings, and a simple human-made boot. No prohibited technology detected, the official announced. The human achieved the result using only the approved mobility devices. By the halfway point, the exhibition had ground to a halt. Competitors abandoned their stations, officials left their posts, and spectators crowded viewing areas, all to witness the impossible. Primitive beings were outperforming quantum technology with foot enhancers and neural systems built of mere organic matter. Captain Chen stood beside Alina, watching as their team systematically shattered the Confederation's understanding of what constituted advanced mobility. "They've been overthinking it for millennia," Alina observed. "Sometimes simpler is better." Sarah nodded. "And sometimes the best technology isn't technology at all. It's biology refined through millions of years of evolution." Across the observation deck, Ambassador Tvex's crystalline structure pulsed with patterns suggesting deep distress, while beside the ambassador, Science Officer Zix's lights displayed what humans were beginning to recognize as the Solari equivalent of barely contained excitement. The final challenge, the zero-gravity chamber, was considered the exhibition's crown jewel. A vast spherical space with strategically placed surfaces and obstacles, it required competitors to navigate a three-dimensional course without the benefit of gravity's orienting influence. Most species relied on propulsion systems and navigation computers for this section. Some of the more advanced civilizations employed localized gravity manipulation or inertial dampening fields. All involved complex technology designed to compensate for the disorienting effects of weightlessness. "This is where we make or break our reputation," Elena told Malik as he prepared at the chamber entrance. The young skateboarder adjusted his simple magnetic grip shoes and checked his modified board one last time. Unlike the elaborate technological solutions of other competitors, Malik's adaptations were elegantly minimal. strategic placement of small magnetic elements, and low-powered directional thrusters no more advanced than what could be found in a hobby shop on Earth. No pressure, right? He grinned, confidence masking nerves. The Confederation's highest scientific authorities had gathered to observe this final human attempt. The text chief engineer, compound eyes blinking rapidly, made no effort to hide skepticism. This will either be a catastrophe or impossible, the alien stated to colleagues. Their primitive rolling device requires friction and consistent downward force to function. As the chamber door opened, Malik gave a final thumbs up to his team and pushed off into weightlessness. What happened next would be studied in Confederation physics institutions for decades to come. Malik became pure flow, using the skateboard not as a vehicle, but as both propulsion and pivot point. Unlike other competitors who fought against the lack of gravity, Malik embraced it, leveraging principles of conservation of angular momentum that the Confederation had somehow never applied to mobility. He ricocheted off surfaces with precisely calculated force, using minimal energy to travel vast distances. Each slight push against a wall sent him gliding through complex trajectories that seemed impossibly efficient. Where other competitors had cautiously navigated with constant adjustments, Malik transformed the zero-G chamber into a three-dimensional skate park. The previously stoic alien audience began showing unprecedented emotional displays. Mandibles clicking, tentacles waving, crystalline structures vibrating in patterns never before recorded. Many had abandoned their observation posts entirely, floating against viewing screens for better angles. The human is using the conservation of momentum toe, a senior Dralaxian physicist began explaining before stopping abruptly. But that's so obvious. How did we never think of this? When Malik completed the course in less than half the previous record time, he allowed himself a victory trick, using a final surface to launch into a complex series of spins before landing perfectly on a designated platform. The exhibition's eye translator struggled with the concept when Malik, breathing hard but grinning, explained he was having fun. The concept does not translate, the system admitted. Closest approximation. Deriving satisfaction from the process of movement rather than from achieving destination. Science Officer Zix, breaking all protocol, approached Malik directly after his run. You experience pleasure from the movement itself. The young Siluri asked, crystalline structure pulsing with curious light patterns, not just from reaching the destination. Malik leaned casually against a wall. That's kind of the whole point. Watch this. He demonstrated a simple ollie in the lower gravity section, then guided Zix through creating a modified version adapted for crystalline physiology. Suddenly, security alerts blared across the station as dozens of young aliens from various species abandoned their delegations, converging around the humans. A veritable stampede of junior representatives, scientific aides, and curious observers gathered to witness these strange beings who found joy in movement itself. Dr. Rice watched in amazement as her team spontaneously began teaching basic movements to creatures with completely different physiologies. Sophia demonstrated spin techniques to hovering tech younglings. Lai showed multi-limbed Proteans how to balance without technological assistance. Jamal's wheelchair became the center of fascination for a group of gelatinous beings who had never conceived of mechanical mobility without AI control. The station's security chief, a gelatinous merc, arrived with a containment team, tentacles waving in alarm. This unauthorized gathering must disperse immediately. Captain Chen stepped forward. Chief, with respect, this isn't an insurrection. It's a cultural exchange, exactly what the exhibition was meant to foster. From a distance, Ambassador Tivex observed the scene, crystalline brain processing what appeared to be either a diplomatic disaster or breakthrough of unprecedented significance. 6 months after what Confederation historians now called the Mobility Revolution, Dr. Elena Reyes stood before the Galactic Council. The chamber, a vast crystalline dome housing representatives from all 27 spacefaring civilizations, hummed with anticipation. Her new title, Earth's ambassador for athletic cultural exchange, still felt strange. She'd never imagined her expertise in human kinetics would become Earth's most valuable export to the stars. The implications extend far beyond recreation, she explained, gesturing to holographic displays, showing the exhibition's unexpected consequences. 17 species have now developed mobility adaptations based on human principles. The displays shifted to show auxiliary using modified inline skates adapted for their crystalline physiology, the wheels replaced with frictionless force fields. Relaxians performed simplified skateboard maneuvers in their atmospheric suits. Even the gelatinous Murg had developed pseudopod techniques inspired by human parkour. The medical implications are particularly significant, Elena continued. Species dependent on mobility technology for millennia are developing natural abilities long thought evolutionarily impossible. The statistics were undeniable. Confederation medical databases reported a 43% reduction in mobility-related health issues among populations adopting human-inspired movement patterns. Energy efficiency had improved by nearly 60% across adapted transportation systems. Not everyone welcomed these changes. Ambassador Tivex rose to address the council, mechanical appendages moving with uncharacteristic emotion. We cannot dismiss concerns about cultural contamination, Tivex stated, crystalline form pulsing with urgent patterns. Young Silari are abandoning traditional movement suits for these primitive adaptations, millennia of technological development cast aside for biological solutions. Murmurs spread through the chamber as conservative representatives nodded in agreement. The debate had raged for months: technology versus biology, efficiency versus expression, tradition versus innovation. As arguments escalated, Jamal Washington rolled his wheelchair to the center of the chamber. His quiet presence somehow silenced the assembly. Before humans invented the wheel, he explained, we carried each other when one couldn't walk. When I lost the use of my legs, I didn't consider it the end of my mobility, just a change in how I moved through the world. His wheelchair spun in a perfect circle. Innovation isn't abandoning tradition, he continued. It's honoring it by building on its foundation. My chair isn't a rejection of walking. It's a celebration of movement in all its forms. The chamber remained silent as his words resonated through translation systems. Finally, the Council voted unanimously to establish the Interspecies Movement Academy on Earth, with Dr. Rice as director. As delegates filed out, Tivex approached Elena privately. I misjudged your species, the ambassador admitted, mechanical appendages adjusted to a more humble posture. We thought advanced technology meant replacing biological limitations. You show us it means enhancing what biology already perfected. We still have much to learn from each other, Elena replied, extending her hand in the human gesture of reconciliation. 3 days later, at the newly established academy in Geneva, Elena watched as Malik taught skateboard principles to floating tech younglings, while Sophia raced Pralaxian hover champions using nothing but her skates and human reflexes. Captain Chen stood beside her, observing alongside Science Officer Zix, who now sported wheel-like modifications to its crystalline base. We thought we needed to be more like them to join the galaxy, Sarah commented. Turns out, they needed to be a little more like us. Zix's crystalline structure glowed in what humans now recognized as the auxiliary expression for joy. Perhaps, the young alien suggested, performing a wobbly spin on its modified base, this is what all technology should aspire to. Not replacing what makes us unique, but celebrating it. Elena smiled, watching as beings from across the galaxy discovered something humans had known since they first stood upright, and ran for the pure joy of feeling the wind on their faces. That movement wasn't just about getting somewhere. Sometimes, the journey itself was the point. In the vast exhibition hall, a young Silari glided past on adapted inline skates, crystalline form pulsing with light patterns that needed no translation. Pure joy.